After 9 grueling hours of driving through a relentless snowstorm just to surprise my wife on her birthday, I finally arrived, cake in hand, only to overhear her saying to her sister, "God, I hope he crashes. I could use the insurance money." Her sister didn't miss a beat and replied, "Or at least a few months of quiet." They both burst out laughing. I left the cake on the kitchen counter. By the next morning, I was gone. 3 weeks passed before she began to regret what she'd said. So here's some background. I'm a 34-year-old guy, and my wife, Elena, is 32. We've been married for 7 years. One of those classic love stories, high school sweethearts who went separate ways for college, then reconnected at a mutual friend's wedding. It all fell back into place from there. At least, that's how I saw it. Lately, things have been off. Elena's been pulling away. It started around 6 months ago, right around the time she began spending more time with her sister Tessa and this flashy new friend group. The kind of crowd that leases luxury cars and posts pictures from vacations they probably put on credit cards. I'm not judging, just observing. Then Elena began dropping subtle digs about our home, calling it starter-sized and hinting that I should be aiming higher in my career. I figured it was just a phase. We live pretty comfortably, a cozy 3-bedroom in a solid neighborhood. We've got 2 reliable cars, take a yearly trip together, nothing extravagant, but we're doing all right. Or at least I thought we were. Her birthday rolled around last week. February birthdays are the worst in the Chicago, bitter cold, snow everywhere, and plans constantly getting canceled. So I decided I'd do something out of the ordinary this year. Her actual birthday landed on a Tuesday, but she had mentioned wanting to spend that weekend with Tessa. They had plans to hit up some spa on Saturday. I told her I couldn't get away from work and would be staying home. That was a lie. I'd actually arranged to take Friday off. The plan? Show up at Tessa's Friday evening, surprise Elena with her favorite cake from the bakery near our place, then take her out to a nice dinner I'd booked weeks in advance. I even packed a bag for her with her favorite dress and the shoes she always reaches for. Every detail was covered. But then the weather started to turn Thursday night. They were calling for a winter storm, 6 to 10 inches across 3 states, including the entire stretch I needed to drive. Most people would have canceled. I didn't. Call it stubbornness or not wanting to waste the restaurant reservation I'd worked so hard to get. I left at 7 a.m. Friday morning. What should have been a 6-hour drive turned into a 9-hour ordeal. Visibility was awful, thick snow swirling like fog, and I could barely make out the taillights ahead of me. There were 3 wrecks along the highway that slowed things down to a crawl. I had to stop for coffee twice just to keep myself alert. But I kept thinking about how happy she'd be when I walked through that door. It had to be worth it, right? I finally rolled into Tessa's neighborhood around 4 p.m. The streets hadn't been plowed, so I had to park a block away and hike through ankle-deep snow with the cake in hand. By the time I reached the door, my jeans were soaked through. The door was unlocked. I could hear them laughing and talking in the kitchen. I was just about to call out when I heard my name. Elena's voice. From Julian. Silence. Then Tessa said something I couldn't quite catch. Elena responded, this time clearer. He texted earlier saying he's stuck at work. Probably still there. In this storm? Anyone stuck at work would have been sent home. Tessa chimed in, he's probably just lounging on the couch again, headphones on, playing that dumb game. I froze right there in the entryway. This wasn't the usual teasing about my gaming habit. There was something bitter in her voice. At least he's not here wrecking your birthday week, Tessa added. That's when I almost walked in to let them know I was there. Part of me wishes I had. But then Elena spoke again, and I'll never forget her words. God, can you imagine? He'd come to dinner tonight, tell the same 3 stories like he always does, then look all sad when I want to go out tomorrow without him. My stomach turned. There I was, holding this cake I'd risked my life to bring her, while she was in the next room mocking me like I was some joke. At least he's out of the picture for now, Tessa said. The roads are terrible. My friend's husband got stranded on the highway for 3 hours. There was a beat of silence. And then Elena dropped the line that broke something in me. God, I hope he crashes. I could use the insurance. I must have made a sound because they both went quiet. For a second, I thought they realized I was there. But then Tessa chuckled and added, or at least a few months of peace and quiet. And they laughed. Like it was the funniest thing in the world. That I might be dead or in the hospital. I don't remember making the decision to walk in. I just did. I placed the cake box on the kitchen counter without saying a word, turned around, and walked out. I'll never forget the look on their faces. It was like someone had flipped a switch, every bit of color drained from them. Elena called after me, but I didn't stop. I walked back out into the snow. Back to my car. I sat there for maybe 20 minutes, just staring at the dashboard, hands shaking too hard to start the engine. By the time I looked at my phone, there were 17 missed calls and 38 unread texts. I didn't read a single one. I drove to the nearest cheap motel I could find. $80 for a room that reeked of old smoke and hopelessness. I shut off my phone and just laid there, staring at the ceiling until the sun came up. When I finally turned my phone back on, the screen lit up with 63 unread texts and 29 missed calls. I didn't read a single one. Instead, I shot a quick message to my buddy Sebastian. Something happened with Elena. Need a place to crash for a few days. Seb, being the legend that he is, replied almost instantly. Doors open. Beers in the fridge. I drove the full 9 hours back home, packed 3 suitcases with clothes and essentials while Elena was still at Tessa's, grabbed all my important documents from our fireproof safe and headed to Seb's. That was 3 days ago. I haven't spoken to Elena since. Not because she hasn't tried. Believe me, she has. She's called from numbers I don't recognize, left voicemails that swing between sobbing and shouting, and even showed up at my job yesterday. Good thing I wasn't there. Called in sick. Today I went to the bank, moved half of our joint savings into a new account with just my name on it, froze our shared credit cards, updated every password I could think of, and let my boss know I'd be working remotely for a week due to a family emergency. It's all been very calm and calculated, kind of strange, considering I feel like I'm spinning inside. Because here's the thing. I can't stop replaying what she said. I hope he crashes. I could use the insurance. Who even says that about someone they love? And it wasn't just that. It was the way they laughed afterward, like the idea of me being gone was funny. And what really guts me is knowing this probably wasn't the first time she's talked like that about me. It was just the first time I happened to hear it. Now, some of our friends have started reaching out. Word's getting around, I guess. Elena's been telling people it was a misunderstanding, and that I'm blowing things out of proportion. Textbook gaslighting. One mutual friend messaged me with, "Whatever it was, I'm sure you two can work through it." Didn't even ask for my side. I haven't shared the full story with anyone, not even Seb, and I've been living in his guest room. He hasn't pushed. He just makes sure there's food in the fridge and leaves me space. Last night, I finally gave in and looked through some of the messages Elena sent. The pattern was predictable. First, confusion. Where did you go? Why are you doing this? Then came defensiveness. It was a joke. You weren't supposed to hear that. Anger followed quickly. Stop being so dramatic. Pick up your damn phone. Then came the emotional manipulation. I'm worried about you. Please just let me know you're safe. Eventually, threats. If you don't answer me, I'm calling the police and reporting you missing. And finally, self-pity. How could you do this to me on my birthday weekend? Not once did she say, "I'm sorry." Not once did she acknowledge how twisted those words were. After reading through that emotional roller coaster, I blocked her number. I'm not ready to talk. Honestly, I'm not sure if I ever will be. Earlier today, I met with a financial advisor, Wesley, a guy my coworker recommended. We sat down for 2 hours and dug into our finances. And, well, I learned a few things. Turns out Elena's been quietly spending $700 to $800 a month on online shopping for the past year. She also opened a store credit card I didn't even know existed, and racked up a $3,000 balance. Wesley helped me map out a way to untangle our finances with as little damage as possible. Everything's legal. No shady tricks. But yeah, Elena's about to get a wake-up call when it comes to money. I didn't touch our joint account beyond moving half. There's still enough left in there to cover this month's mortgage and utilities. After that, that's up to her. I'm not trying to ruin her. I just need her to see that actions, words, have consequences. What messes with my head is how often I catch myself wondering if I'm overreacting. Maybe it really was just a joke. Maybe I'm making it bigger than it needs to be. But then I remember the tone, the ease with which she said it, the laughter, that casual cruelty. And I know I'm not. Seb keeps suggesting I should at least talk to her, if only for closure. Maybe he's right. But right now, I'm still trying to wrap my head around who I married. trying to understand how someone I loved so deeply could say something so vile. Tomorrow marks 5 days of complete silence from me. Today, Tessa tried to call. I let it ring out. Later, our neighbor Iris texted to say Elena was sitting on our front steps crying, apparently because I'd changed the garage code. Part of me feels bad about that. But most of me doesn't. The thing that haunts me the most isn't even the insurance line, it's the sound of their laughter. That unbothered, genuine laughter at the thought of me being gone. Who does that? And how long has she felt this way? Another thing that's been gnawing at me, I remembered the life insurance policy we set up 3 years ago. It's not massive, but $1.5 million is nothing to scoff at. I'm calling the insurance company tomorrow to change the beneficiary. Yeah, I know this is turning into a novel. But typing it all out helps. It's like letting a little pressure out of the valve. Seb mentioned he's got a friend who's a divorce lawyer. I'm meeting him for coffee tomorrow morning. Just to talk. I'm not saying that's where this is going, but I need to understand my options. As for what I plan to do next, I honestly don't know. Part of me just wants to disappear. Wipe everything clean. Change my number, move to a different state, start over where no one knows my name. But that feels like running. Another part of me wants to confront her, look her in the eye and repeat her words back to her. To let her feel even a fraction of the pain I've been carrying around since that night. But more than anything, I just want the emptiness in my chest to go away. I want to be able to close my eyes without seeing her face or hearing those words on loop. So for now, I'm taking it day by day. Laying low. Making quiet moves. Letting her wonder where I am, what I know, and what I'm going to do next. If people are interested, I'll keep sharing updates as things unfold. Either way, thanks for giving me the space to vent. Sometimes strangers on the internet are the only ones who just listen, no fixing, no judgment. Just presence. Still here? Still breathing. Julian. Update. Quick TLDR for anyone just joining. I drove 9 hours through a snowstorm to surprise my wife, Elena, for her birthday at her sister Tessa's place. Instead, I overheard Elena casually saying she hoped I'd crash on the way because she could use the insurance money. Left the cake I brought sitting on the counter and walked out. Been staying at my friend Sebastian's place for 3 days now, avoiding her calls, sorting out our finances. A lot of you asked for an update. So here it is. It's been a week since I posted. 10 days since I heard those words that now loop in my brain like some cursed TikTok sound I never asked to hear. People say anger fades. That's what all those self-help podcasts Seb plays in the kitchen keep promising anyway. The rage goes away and clarity takes its place. Still waiting for that part. Last Wednesday, day 4 of silence, I woke up with a plan. Not a smart one. Definitely not a healthy one. But it felt right in that moment. I waited until 9:30 a.m. once I knew Elena would be at work. Then I went back. Back to her house. With 3 empty suitcases and Seb's old pickup truck. The place looked exactly the same. Coffee mug still sitting on the counter. Mail piled up by the door. Nothing had moved, but somehow everything felt different. Felt like I'd stepped onto a movie set of my own life. Too familiar to be a stranger's place, too hollow to still be mine. I started in the bedroom. Packed up all my clothes except for the ones she'd picked out for me. Left those hanging in the closet like empty cocoons. Took my grandmother's watch from the dresser. Grabbed my journals off the shelf. The external hard drive with all our photos. Might seem petty, but I paid for it. In the office, I unhooked my whole gaming setup. Left the desk behind, we bought that together. Took the chair though. I bought it after she complained the old one squeaked. Found our marriage certificate in the filing cabinet. Took that too. Not really sure why. Just felt like it mattered. Room by room, I pulled myself out of the house like an extraction mission. My books. My records. My tools from the garage. Even that weird metal sculpture from the art fair she hated. For hours of methodically erasing myself from the home we built. What I didn't take. Anything we picked out together. The couch we agonized over for 3 weekends. The kitchen table where we ate 1,000 meals. The bed where we slept, argued, made up, made love. I didn't touch any of it. I even left all the framed photos up. Every one of them. Me smiling in every room on every wall. Felt right somehow. Let her live with that. Before I left, I did 3 things. First, I turned the thermostat down to 62. She used to whine if it dropped below 70. Second, I unscrewed the light bulb from the fridge. A small annoyance she wouldn't notice for days. But once she did, it'd bug her every time she opened the door at night. Third, I changed the Wi-Fi password to I hope he crashes 2023 and unplugged the router. Petty? Yeah. But sometimes petty is poetic. Little reminders. subtle echoes of absence. 100 tiny inconveniences before the weight of the bigger one settles in. As I was locking the door behind me, our neighbor Iris came out to get her mail. She looked at Seb's truck packed with my stuff, then back at me with raised eyebrows. I shrugged, told her I was donating some things. She didn't believe me. Her face made that pretty clear. But she just nodded and went inside. Chicago manners. Don't ask questions that might lead to awkward answers. Usually that annoys me. That day, I was grateful for it. Back at Seb's, I stashed everything in his garage except 2 suitcases I brought inside. He didn't ask for details, just helped unload, handed me a beer, and said, "Sometimes life kicks you right in the teeth." Thursday was finance day. Met with Wesley again. He'd pulled all our account data into a spreadsheet, and let me tell you, it was a gut punch. Turns out the store credit card wasn't the only surprise. There were random cash withdrawals from our joint account. $300 here, $500 there. Over $12,000 in the past year that didn't line up with anything I could track. No receipts. No obvious purchases. Just gone. Wesley helped me write a letter formally requesting financial separation. Not divorce. Not yet. Just a legal statement saying I wouldn't be liable for any new debt she racks up moving forward. Had it delivered to her workplace. By courier. Petty? Probably. But it got the point across. Cancelled our shared streaming accounts. Updated the passwords to our cloud storage, where all our important docs are kept. Redirected my mail to a P.O. box. Small, clean cuts. Quietly unraveling a life that had been tightly knotted together for years. Friday morning, I finally checked my social media. 17 messages on Facebook. 34 DMs on Instagram. Even Twitter, where I haven't posted in forever, had activity. People checking in. People asking what happened. People taking sides without knowing anything. I posted one thing. Just one. A photo of a half-eaten birthday cake on a kitchen counter. No caption. No explanation. Just the cake. Within an hour, my phone was blowing up. Friends texting me asking what it meant. Elena called me 6 times in 20 minutes. Her best friend Jill messaged asking if I was okay. Said Elena was really worried. I didn't answer any of them. That afternoon, I met up with Ramon from work. Told him I needed some time off for personal reasons. Ramon took it better than I expected. Just asked how much time I needed and whether I could still handle the Wilson project remotely. I told him I could, just needed 2 weeks. He didn't press for details. Just gave me a firm clap on the shoulder and said sometimes stepping back was the only way to see things clearly. First bit of useful advice I'd heard since this whole thing started. Saturday was the first real confrontation. I was in the frozen foods aisle, staring blankly at pizzas and trying to remember which kind Sebastian actually likes, when I heard someone call my name. Turned around and there was Tessa, basket in hand. Face pale like she'd just seen a ghost. She opened with the usual script. Elena's worried sick. Everyone's concerned. Can't you just talk to her? I didn't say anything, so her tone shifted. She said I was being dramatic. That it was just a harmless joke between sisters. That I was blowing the whole thing way out of proportion. That's when I finally responded. I asked her straight up if she honestly believed wishing death on your husband for insurance money was standard sibling joke material. Asked her if she'd be cool with her boyfriend overhearing her say something like that. Then I asked if she'd noticed how that joke was just the final straw in a slow burn of growing contempt. She didn't have much to say after that. Just stumbled through something about misunderstandings and context. I slid the pizza back into the freezer, left my half-full cart where it was, and walked out. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely. Sunday was quiet. Sebastian had a few friends over to watch the game. They definitely knew something was off. But no one asked. Just passed me beers and made room on the couch. For a few hours I actually felt normal again. Then Monday showed up. Reality came with it. My leave from work officially started. The house Elena and I had shared for 5 years was still sitting across town. Half empty now. And my phone had 15 missed calls from her overnight. I finally listened to one of the voicemails. Her voice was different. Hoarse. Strained. She said she hadn't been sleeping. That the house didn't feel right without me. That she'd noticed more and more of my stuff was missing and it was starting to scare her. Asked if I was planning to come back or if I was really ghosting our marriage. That word ghosting hit differently. Like she was comparing our entire relationship to some Tinder match you can just disappear from. And something in me hardened. I texted Seb to say I was going for a drive and ended up parked outside the house. Sat there for almost an hour. Her car wasn't in the driveway. The porch light was still on even though it was daytime, probably left it on all night again. The recycling bin was overflowing with wine bottles. I didn't go in. Just sat there thinking about mortgage payments. About whether I should try to buy her out or just sell and split the equity. About how we'd gone from forever to spreadsheets and legal documents in under 2 weeks. Tuesday brought another surprise. Got a fraud alert from the credit card company. Unusual activity. Turns out Elena had gone on a bit of a spree. Over $2,000 at department stores and boutiques. Whether it was retail therapy or just her trying to burn through money out of spite, I couldn't say. Didn't matter. I called the company, reported the card stolen, and had a new one sent to my P.O. box. Another bridge burned. That night, I finally posted something online. Not about Elena directly. Just a simple status. Sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same. Vague enough to pass as generic. But if you knew, you knew. Elena would see it. Her friends would. And the narrative would start to shift from Julian's losing it to maybe something serious really happened. Wednesday marked 2 full weeks since I heard those words in Tessa's kitchen. 2 weeks of silence on my end. 2 weeks of increasingly frantic outreach from Elena. That morning, I met with a lawyer Sebastian recommended. Another Wesley, just like my financial advisor, which made things confusing fast. He was kind. Direct. Explained that a divorce would be fairly straightforward since we didn't have kids. The finances and property, though, that would take time to sort out. He suggested starting with a formal separation. Something structured. Something that gave us both room to breathe. I agreed. He drafted the paperwork on the spot. Said it could be served by Friday if I wanted to move that fast. The momentum had shifted now. Everything was picking up speed. Thursday was when things really escalated. I was working from Seb's dining room table when the doorbell rang. Seb answered, then came back looking uncomfortable. Elena was outside, he said. Crying. Asking to see me. I froze. Coffee cup halfway to my mouth. Seb hovered awkwardly, waiting for a signal. Should he send her away? Let her in? Neither felt like the right move. I wasn't ready to see her. Definitely wasn't ready to hear whatever speech she'd rehearsed. But turning her away felt like giving her ammo, like feeding her the "you're being unreasonable" narrative. So I nodded. Seb let her in. She looked rough. Hair unwashed. Eyes rimmed red. Wearing the same sweater I'd seen her in days ago. She just stood in the doorway staring like she couldn't quite believe I was actually there. I didn't get up. Didn't offer a seat. Just waited. She spoke first. Asked if I was really having her served with separation papers. Apparently Wesley's assistant had called to confirm the address and she'd pressed until they gave her more details. So much for subtlety. I told her yes. I was. She asked why I wouldn't just talk to her. Why I wouldn't let her explain. Her voice kept cracking like she was forcing the words through sandpaper. And I told her flat out that there was nothing to explain. I told her I heard what I heard. She said it wasn't what I thought. Claimed she'd been stressed, work, bills, life, and that Tessa had a way of bringing out the worst in her. Said it was just dark humor. A bad joke after a few glasses of wine. Nothing literal. I asked if she remembered exactly what she said. She hesitated, then offered some weak revisionist history. Claimed it was something like, I wish he'd just crash on the couch for a while, and that I must have misheard the rest. That's when I pulled out my phone. Pressed play. Yeah, I had a recording. Not something I planned. I'd been using a voice memo app on the drive over to jot down birthday gift ideas. Forgot to stop it when I got there. Pure accident. Or fate. Whatever. But there it was, her voice, clear as day. God, I hope he crashes. I could use the insurance. Then Tessa chiming in, or at least a few months of silence. Followed by laughter. Elena's face went pale. All the color drained out of it. She reached for my phone, I pulled it back. She broke down completely. Said it was out of context. Said she didn't mean it. Said she would never hurt me. I asked her one question. Would you have told me about this conversation if I hadn't heard it myself? She didn't answer. Didn't need to. Silence was loud enough. Sebastian had vanished when she first arrived, but now he came back in, probably heard the shouting through the walls. He gently suggested maybe we should all revisit this conversation later, once things had cooled down. Elena ignored him. locked in on me like he didn't exist. She started pouring it all out, how she'd realized so much these past 2 weeks. How much she needed me. How the house felt dead without me. How she couldn't sleep in our bed alone. Said she'd never meant to hurt me. That she'd spend the rest of her life trying to make things right if I just come home. It was a performance. Tears in all the right places. Shaky voice. Hands trembling like they were on cue. 2 weeks ago it might have worked. I might have bought into it. But I'd spent 14 days thinking. Not just about what she said, but about what kind of person says that. The slow buildup of resentment. The casual cruelty. Because someone who can laugh about you dying isn't someone you really know. So I told her the truth. I didn't know if I could ever trust her again. The separation wasn't revenge. It was protection, me giving myself space to figure out whether there was anything left worth salvaging. She didn't take it well. Accused me of throwing away 7 years over one comment. Said everyone vents, says stupid things they don't mean. Called me cruel for cutting her off, disappearing. I didn't argue. Just let the words slide right over me. And when she finally ran out of steam, I told her the papers would arrive tomorrow. She should read them carefully before making any decisions. She left sobbing. Mascara streaked down her face in little rivers. Sebastian came back in with 2 beers and said that was the most uncomfortable thing he'd witnessed since his parents' divorce. Dark joke. But I appreciated the effort. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept seeing her face from when she heard the recording. The shock. The fear. But not, I noticed, any real remorse. Just fear of consequences. Friday morning, the papers were delivered. Right on schedule. By that afternoon, Tessa was already on social media posting vague things about men who overreact and how misunderstandings shouldn't destroy marriages. Amazing how families circle the wagons even when they know the truth. But something unexpected happened too. Jill, Elena's best friend, messaged me. Simple text. Said she knew the full story now. Said she was sorry. That she'd heard what Elena said and it was inexcusable. Said she'd known Elena since college. And that this wasn't the first time she'd made comments like that about people she supposedly loved. Said she tried to talk to her about it once, years ago. Got shut down hard. It was the first time anyone in Elena's orbit had acknowledged the pain I was in. Not brushed it off. Not told me to just talk it out. I didn't respond. But it meant something. Maybe that comment wasn't a fluke. Maybe it wasn't a stress-fueled slip. Maybe I'd been ignoring red flags for years. The weekend was quiet. Seb had a date. I stayed in. Ordered pizza. Watched that sci-fi show Elena always rolled her eyes at. And tried not to think about the fact that, in some other version of my life, I'd be sitting on that same couch beside my wife, monthly pizza and movie tradition intact. Sunday night, she texted. 2 words. I'm sorry. No explanations. No follow-ups. Just that. The first real apology in 17 days. I didn't answer. But I thought about it longer than I probably should have. Monday morning. Day 18. I came downstairs and found Elena sitting in her car outside Sebastian's house. Just sitting there. Watching the front door. Seb spotted her first through the kitchen window. I called her. Asked what she was doing. She said she just needed to see me. Make sure I was okay. Promised she wouldn't come to the door. Wouldn't make a scene. Just needed visual confirmation. It was unsettling. But weirdly tender too. I told her to go home. That this wasn't helping either of us. She asked if I'd seen her message. I said yes. She asked if I believed her apology. I told her I wasn't sure. Then she hit me with the question I'd been avoiding since day one. Are you filing for divorce? I gave her the honest answer I hadn't decided yet. She didn't push. Just stayed in her car for another hour before finally pulling away. Sebastian suggested we change the locks at my place just to be safe. I agreed. We spent the afternoon installing new deadbolts. Another quiet step away from the life I used to have. Today makes 3 weeks since that night at Tessa's. 3 weeks of quiet. Of space. Of trying to sift through the debris of what I thought was a solid marriage. I'm still not sleeping well. I miss the dumb stuff. Like how she always splurged on the fancy coffee I liked. The way she'd sing loud and off-key in the shower every morning. Her ridiculous fuzzy sock collection that somehow always ended up on my side of the bed. But I don't miss the tension I used to write off as stress. I don't miss walking on eggshells around her moods. I don't miss the little digs, the ones I used to call her sense of humor. The separation papers have been signed and filed. The lawyer says we're now officially in a 6-month legal separation window. Still technically married, but living apart. Separate finances. Separate lives. At the end of the 6 months, we either reconcile or we don't. 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't have even entertained reconciliation as an option. Yeah? I'm not so sure. Not because I've forgiven her. Not even close. But because untangling a 7-year marriage is like trying to unravel a spider web with oven mitts on. The house, the accounts, the mutual friends, the families, it's all woven tighter than I realized. As I sit here thinking through all of this, my phone buzzes. New message from Elena. Can we meet? Neutral location. Just to talk. Please. I have no idea what I'm going to say. Part of me wants to hear her out. Part of me thinks meeting up is just dragging this out. Most of me is just exhausted. But I'll probably go. If for no other reason than to say out loud all the things I've only been writing to strangers online. I'll post an update if anything major changes. And thank you for the advice, the support, the chaos. Even the glitter in the shampoo suggestions. Some of y'all seriously need therapy, but I love you for it. Still here? Still breathing. Julian. Final update. It's been 25 days since I left that cake on the counter. 25 days of silence, distance, and more emotional labor than I signed up for this year. This will probably be my last update. Because, honestly, there's only so much you can say about a dead marriage before it stops being cathartic and starts feeling like a rerun. First off, thanks for the comments and DMs. Yes, even the weird ones. No, I did not take the advice about putting fish in her car vents. You people are unhinged. So, the meetup. I showed up 15 minutes early. Anxiety makes me punctual. We picked a coffee shop downtown. Busy enough for ambient noise, not so packed we'd have to shout. 2 p.m. on a Thursday. I chose a corner table. Ordered a black coffee I didn't even want. Just needed something to do with my hands. Elena walked in right on time. That alone was a statement. She's always late. Always. Hair done. Light makeup. Wearing the blue sweater I got her last Christmas. It was a carefully curated look. Everything about her was deliberate. She sat down, didn't say hi. The first thing out of her mouth was that she'd lost 7 pounds since I left. Just dropped that into the air like it was a gift. Stress weight loss as an emotional bargaining chip. Classic Elena. I didn't respond. Just asked her why she wanted to meet. Then she pulled out notes. Actual handwritten notes. On yellow legal pad paper. This woman, who couldn't remember to buy eggs without texting me, had bullet points. It almost made me laugh. Her first point. She was sorry. Genuinely. Deeply. Said what she said was cruel, thoughtless, and not reflective of how she truly felt. Blamed stress. Misunderstanding. Thought I was skipping her birthday weekend. Said she'd been drinking wine with Tessa and the words just came out. I asked why she laughed afterward. She flinched. Like I'd thrown cold water on her. Said it was nervous laughter. Said Tessa always brought out her worst side. Claimed it was a dumb attempt to seem edgy and cool. Second point. She'd taken me for granted. Gotten too comfortable with the stability I provided. Forgot to appreciate what I brought to the table and focused too much on what I didn't. Third point. These last 3 weeks had been a wake-up call. Said the house was too quiet. Admitted to talking out loud just to hear a voice. Said she didn't realize how much she leaned on me emotionally. Fourth point. She wanted to try therapy. Couples counseling. Said she already found someone, specializes in rebuilding trust after betrayal. Even booked a preliminary appointment. Asked me if I'd consider it. The whole time I just sat there. Sipping coffee that had gone cold. Watching her face. Searching for the woman who said she could use the insurance if I died. Was this sincerity? Or just another mask? I couldn't tell. Not really. When she finished, she placed the legal pad between us and finally looked me in the eye. Then she asked, "What are you thinking?" I told her I'd been thinking about alternate realities, how, in another version of our lives, I never drove through that snowstorm. Never heard those words. I'd still be sleeping beside someone who once laughed at the idea of me not making it home. She started crying. Not the loud, dramatic kind like back at Sebastian's. These were quiet tears, ones she kept wiping away with a napkin like they were just an inconvenience. I laid everything out clearly. Not conditions. Just reality. The separation would continue for the full 6 months, no exceptions. I wouldn't be moving back in during that time. I wasn't ruling out reconciliation, but I wasn't ready for therapy yet either. I needed space. She nodded through it all. Like each sentence hit her just a little harder. When I finished, she asked if I hated her. The strange part? I didn't. Still don't. I'm angry. Disappointed. Hurt. But not hateful. I told her that. She looked genuinely shocked. Said she'd been assuming I must hate her, telling herself that's why I'd shut her out so completely. Said it was almost worse that I didn't. because that meant I just didn't care enough anymore to feel something that intense. That stung, mostly because there was a bit of truth in it. Things wrapped up quietly after that. We agreed to keep our communication focused strictly on the practical stuff, house, bills, that sort of thing. She'd keep paying the mortgage. It's in her name too. I'd continue covering my portion of the utilities. We'd reassess everything at the 3-month mark. As we stood to leave, she paused and asked if she could hug me. I said no. She nodded like she'd expected that, gathered her things and walked out. I stayed in that coffee shop another 30 minutes. Just sitting there, thinking how surreal it was to have such a formal, almost clinical, conversation with someone who once held my hand through food poisoning. Someone who knew every ridiculous story from my childhood. Someone who's seen me at my lowest. 7 years boiled down to bullet points on a legal pad. After that, life found its weird new rhythm. I extended my remote work arrangement until the end of the month. Sebastian's guest room started to feel more permanent. I bought a decent mattress topper. Hung up a couple of photos. Built routines, morning runs, working, gym visits a few times a week. Sometimes Sebastian and I made dinner together when our schedules lined up. The no-contact strategy seemed to be doing more than just protecting me, it was giving Elena space to reflect too. A week after the coffee shop, I got a surprising message from Tessa. Humble, of all things. She admitted she'd been a bad influence on Elena for years, encouraging her to be honest, which really meant mean, under the guise of sisterly bonding. Said she hated herself for laughing that day in the kitchen. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. Just wanted me to know she saw how badly she'd contributed to the mess. I didn't respond. Just screenshotted it, not for leverage, but for my own sanity. A reminder I wasn't imagining the betrayal. Meanwhile, the financial strain was hitting harder than I expected. Elena's friend Jill reached out again. Said Elena was struggling to keep up her usual lifestyle on one income. Cancelled her spa membership. Thinking of getting a roommate, though she didn't want anyone new in the house in case I came back. I recognized the guilt trip when I saw it. Told Jill to have Elena contact my lawyer if she wanted to discuss finances. Around day 30, Elena's tone shifted. Her emails got more focused. Less emotional. She started selling her fancy clothes and handbags on resale apps. Got rid of her second car, the flashy convertible she just had to have last summer. Even mentioned she was thinking about taking classes to boost her career. It felt like watching someone mature in fast forward. Oddly, I was proud of her. But I had no plans to swoop in and fix anything. Then came day 35. Checked my P.O. box and found a thick envelope from Elena. 10 handwritten pages front and back and a USB drive. The letter was a full relationship timeline from her point of view. All the big moments. The late proposal. Our first big fight about money. The miscarriage in year 3 that we never really addressed. She laid it all out, the shift in how she saw me. From partner to provider to obstacle. She owned up to resenting how content I was while she kept chasing more. Admitted she compared our life to her friends even though they were drowning in debt. Confessed she'd flirted with a coworker last year, though she swore it never went anywhere. The USB held audio files, therapy sessions with her therapist's permission apparently. I listened to one. Couldn't stomach more. Hearing her unpack our marriage with a stranger, hearing her try to explain the insurance comment with what sounded like genuine confusion, it was too much. Too raw. I deleted the files. Put the letter in my document box. Couldn't throw it away, though I'm not sure I'll read it again. Day 40, I bumped into Iris, our neighbor, at the hardware store. She mentioned Elena had been hosting weekly gatherings. Not parties. Meetings. Said 6 or 7 women would show up every Wednesday. Curiosity got the better of me. Parked down the block that night and watched from my car. 7 women arrived. Some familiar, some not. I didn't approach. Instead, I texted Jill, asked casually what Elena had been up to. Turns out she'd started a women's accountability group. Focused on financial literacy and breaking toxic relationship patterns. Not what I expected. Around day 45, the social media narrative flipped. Tessa, who'd said nothing publicly, posted a long status about supporting Elena through her awakening. Tagged her in it. Elena responded, "Love you, but this journey is mine to share when I'm ready." That stirred the rumor pot. People started reaching out again. Some thought she was in rehab. False. Others claimed I'd drained our accounts and left her broke. Also false. Another said it had been a mutual split years in the making. Sort of true. I kept quiet. Let the gossip do what gossip does. Day 50. I went back to the house for the first time since leaving while Elena was home. Needed my winter gear. Minnesota spring is a myth and we got dumped with snow. Texted her first. She said of course she'd be home working on a project. Pulling into that driveway felt strange. The lawn needed mowing. Flower beds were neglected. Little signs of my absence. Elena met me at the door, didn't hover. Just said to take my time and went back to the kitchen. The house felt different. Smelled different too, more like the diffuser she used to want to run, but I always hated. The photos had been rearranged. Furniture shifted slightly. In the garage, I found my winter things neatly packed. Labeled. She'd even included my favorite scarf. The expensive gloves my mom gave me 2 Christmases ago. As I loaded the boxes into my car, she came out with a mug of coffee. Asked if I wanted to see what she was working on. No pressure. Curiosity won. She'd set up a small art studio in the kitchen. Was painting wooden signs with inspirational quotes, the same kind she used to roll her eyes at in stores. She looked a little embarrassed as she explained it helped her stay grounded. Said she'd even sold a few at the farmer's market. We talked briefly. Light topics. Weather. Her parents' anniversary. The water heater acting up again. Normal stuff. Between 2 people who used to be everything to each other. As I left, she said something that stuck. She'd been reading about grief and realized she was mourning our marriage while trying to save it, and those 2 states didn't always agree. I said I got it. I was feeling the same contradiction. It was the most real thing we'd said to each other in ages. She said she understood what the cake symbolized. Told me she'd accept whatever decision I made. Said she was proud of how I'd handled everything, at choosing dignity over destruction. She apologized again. Not because she expected me to forgive her, but because she felt it needed to be said. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with the lawyer. Not to file for divorce. Not yet. Just to understand what either road ahead might look like, whether it's rebuilding what broke or finally letting it go for good. I need to know what reconciliation would actually mean after something like this. I need clarity before I choose. Tonight, I'll finish this cake. Alone. Not because I'm sad, but because some parts of the journey have to be walked by yourself. I don't know if Elena and I have a future together. What she did cut deep. Trust doesn't come back easily, and maybe it never will. But I do know this, whatever decision I make, it won't come from fear. Or confusion. It'll come from a place of strength. Those words I overheard at Tessa's table were ugly, but maybe they were also necessary. Maybe we had to break completely just to see what we were really made of. Or maybe some things, once broken, just stay that way. Either way, I've made peace with the process. The man who left that cake on the counter 90 days ago would have lit himself on fire to keep her warm. The man writing this now knows he deserves better than that. I'll post one final update once I've made my choice. But for now, I'm signing off. Thanks for being part of this with me, random internet strangers. Your advice, your support, and even the wildly unhinged revenge ideas, weirdly therapeutic. I'm still here. Still breathing. Stronger than I've ever been. Julian.